How's it going out there, everybody? In this video, we are going to talk about seizing the moment and sacrifice. Okay. Now, what do I mean? This was inspired by my recent writing bender that I just went on. I was kind of gone for a couple weeks because I had, the opportunity to, and I was seizing the moment. So I just wanted to take the time. I'm always looking for topics. I'm trying to get more active on the YouTube, and so I don't want to just put a bunch of videos of drumming and stuff like that up. I want to keep it versatile. I want to, as an indie musician, a DIY musician guy, I just want to be, sharing different stuff about that journey, sharing stuff as a musician, as a person, even maybe. But for this topic and in this video, it's going to be about seizing the moment and sacrifice. So what I mean by that is, and I guess as a precursor here, before we get any further into the video, this is a video more for aspiring artists or artists themselves, other music, and not just musicians, but painters, writers, whatever you're doing artistically. I believe this can apply. Um, so let's dive right in. Um, Seizing the moment and sacrifice. They're almost two sides of a coin. And like I said, the video was originally inspired, the topic, by, what happened a couple weeks ago. And what happened was, as most of you guys know, I have a record coming out on Halloween. It actually is now fully released on Bandcamp as of the 17th. So you can stream the whole thing on Bandcamp now or purchase it, and I'll try to get some codes up for that, some discount codes too, a little bit later. But anyway, so I just finished that record. I just finished all the studio work and everything, and was exhausted. So my plan was to take a break for a little while. I had these I did work on some new material, but it was just I kind of just it kind of came out. It just it just kind of happened. But it wasn't planned. It was like I said, the plan was for a bit of a break, just to reset, to put up my feet for a minute. Like I said, I've been wanting to learn how to like really play the flute, and I wanted to maybe set aside a few weeks to just kind of dig into that a little bit. But long and short of it is when you are a metal drummer and you are living above somebody in an apartment, it can get very tense because I play my Roland. Obviously, I can't play my acoustics in the apartment here. That's so I have my Roland kit, but while most of the kit is cool, the toms and the cymbals and all that, snare and all that stuff, but nonetheless, the bass drums, the pedals just still, it can be loud on the ceiling of the person below. So I mean, I've done a lot. I've actually spent quite a bit of money putting a noise isolation platform my kit's sitting on, but it still has its effects nonetheless. And as any musician out there knows, especially if you're like a drummer or something like that, that's kind of something a little more unique maybe to drummers, but and every band sure enough knows it too. But you have got to work with your neighbors a little bit to keep everything happy. Unless you got a practice space that's like a dedicated type thing, soundproofed and all, but I know me, I was practicing garages. It started in my bedroom. I was literally sleeping in between like stacks amp stacks, like I have my bed like on the floor between that stuff when I was like 14, 15, 16, stuff like that, because my bedroom was small and our whole band practiced there for like 2-3 years, man. But anyway, long story short is, you got to work with people. You can't just sit there and have no regard for the people around you when but at the same token, I do play. I'm going to play, but we work together. So long and short of that is when he's away, it's fair game. And he was away for almost 2 weeks, and I just and the stars all aligned because my wife had some stuff that she was working on, and I was kind of caught up with a lot of my daddy do stuff, so it was just I had time, and I seized the opportunity, seized the moment. And that's the nature of one of the things that I wanted to talk about. You seize the opportunities when you can, and I guess this is what part of the what I was telling you with the video, and why it's kind of inspirational, educational in a way, because there's all kinds of stuff out here. This thing right here can be a killer to your musical life, like, totally, or artistic life. I say, like I said, this video is for kind of any artist. As a musician, it just kind of comes out that way sometimes, but I'm speaking, to artists in general. I'm trying to keep that on, but it's just anyway though. So you need to take the time to practice and hone and work on your craft in order for your craft to give back to you. And there was another thing that kind of inspired this video is, as I was doing this and I was playing and I was reflecting, and I was like, because there was it's been a long time since he's been away like that, and it almost kind of brought me back to my younger years when I could play more like that. And then it made me start thinking about a conversation I had with my nephew not too long ago, who also plays drums. What's up, Dave? And I'm not trying to get on you, dude, so don't even take this like that. But he moved to Colorado a couple years back, and he's back home in the East Coast now in Maryland. But as he was moving, before he moved, my brother is, like I said, he gave me my first album ever as a kid. It was Black Sabbath with the witch on front, and the picture scared the heck out of me, and then the album in the beginning, just listening to the first song, it was just creepy kind of, so it was awesome, dude. And then he took me to my first concerts. He took me to several concerts. I mean, his stuff, my stuff, he was taking me to like Metallica shows and Sepultura and Slayer and stuff like that when I was like 12, 13 years old and stuff like that. And so his children play music, and he's cool with them. They have their bedroom. He lives out in like the country type. So, the long and short of it is I grew up in the city. I grew up where there was, people everywhere, and I had police at my house. My mom had to fight all kinds of battles, different bands and everything, because, people would call the cops about the noise, and the cops would, I remember one day we had the police in the bedroom, but my mom, the cops had come over, my mom brought them upstairs and was like, see, I'm trying to keep these kids off the streets by letting them play their music here and all, and, the cop was totally cool with it, and as it turned out, he ended up kind of, setting up some padding for us. But nonetheless, it's my nephew grew up in a different environment where he could just play and it never mattered. And I was trying to impress on him before he moved the importance of that. And then he moved into an apartment in Colorado where he had he never even really played, and it was, it's one of those things where if you have the means to, you have cool parents, cool neighbors, a cool wife, cool, whatever, take it, man, because it doesn't sit there's going to be times, and depending on your instrument, depending on what you do, there's going to be levels of that, obviously. Like, certain instruments are more quieter than others, and certain instruments are just more acceptable to hear than others. Like, there's a cat who plays sax around here somewhere every once in a while, and you just hear him kind of going up and down the scales every once in a while, and nobody has anything to say whatsoever because it's a sax, and even if you're not playing it, in a completely fluent manner, it still sounds good, But, bang on a friggin' have somebody, practice marching snare, beginning marching snare for an hour while it's your Sunday afternoon and you got to go to work, you know what I mean? I'm just saying. So, if you have the opportunity, take it. And the other side of seizing that opportunity is sacrifice. You're going to need to sacrifice. It's like I had that video game controller a few minutes ago. And, sorry, I'm going to take a sip here. My tea. But it's like that video game controller. It's, I don't play video games anymore. I haven't played for years because they started messing up my music. Really, like, even TV, television, anything that's going to have you sitting there like this for too long is detrimental to your art, because you need to practice, you need to keep up your techniques, it's like they say with riding a bike. But riding a bike is just pedaling two things. Yeah, that's pretty easy to remember. But if you're doing scales or rudiment, whatever you're playing, chords, that shit takes time and effort and energy. And you get what you put in. If you put work into it, you'll get something out of it. Which is what I try to explain to my kids now. Like, I'm in my mid-40s, and I'm still playing all this stuff. And hey, man, I know I'm no maestro, but I'm thankful that in my mid-40s I can still play. I can still play music. I can still write music. I can still do it. And I had a little hiatus in that for a little while, and a slew of things that would keep me from that. But the reason why I'm able to do it is because when I was in my 10, 11, 12, well, 10, 11, 12, I was playing 10, I was noodling a little, but by the time I was 11 or 12, I was serious. My teens, though, I was practicing full. And because of that, it was all in me, even though there was a few years where I was concentrating on, I was in the IBEW Local 11 out here in Los Angeles, and I was, working on being a journeyman electrician, and I was just really focusing on, trying to do that. Music took a backseat for a little while, and when I went back to it, though, it was, like reacquainting with an old friend. And I needed to really get back to it for my head, because if I didn't, I would have been going crazy. I don't want to speak much on it. That's about as much as I'm going to get on it. But I need to do the music, and if I hadn't put all that time in practicing when I was younger, never would have happened now, because there's no real time. Like, I practice, don't get me wrong, I practice, I do my rudiments, I do different exercises with feet and hands and all kinds of stuff on the pads and on the kit, practice pad and on the kit, but it's when I can. I have 3 children, and the way that they are, it's funny. My wife and I, we always joke that one of them always wants my sticks. So if I pull my practice, we're all sitting in the living room watching TV or whatever, they're doing their homework, whatever. And now they're doing. It's my youngest son. He's 2. He doesn't have any homework to do. But as soon as I pull them sticks out, here he comes over. He wants the sticks and he wants to play, and it's cute and it's cool and all. But if I was seriously trying to be like, okay, I need to practice for an hour, it would be starting to get frustrating after a while. So because I put all that time in before, I got some fruits from it now to where I can still do it. And I guess that's where seizing the moment and sacrifice comes into play. I stopped playing video games a couple years back because it was really messing with. I was in two bands at that point. I wasn't doing the Pharmacide stuff. Well, 2 years, yeah, I'd wrote the first song, but I wasn't really like now. I'm all on Pharmacide. Before I was in two other bands, and uh, so, like I said, I was in two different bands at that point, and it just there was no room for any kind of video games. And I'm not even really saying like there was like I was just some like yeah video games like all day and night. It wasn't like that. It was something that I would use in the wee hours of the night to try to start detaching and not just like Xbox, but whatever those little games on the phone where you're moving from one side to the other and jumping and ducking and as you're running obstacle course or whatever. Just just mind numbing things. And you got to start gauging those kind of things. Now if you're making your art and you're satisfied with how everything is going, then you probably don't need to think about that. But there was a time for me when I started thinking, wow, I'm sitting up here playing freaking Minion Jump or something, and I should be working on music and, practicing rudiments, something. I haven't done, rudiments in a week. Why am I sitting here doing this? And it's just stuff like that you gotta notice, and then you gotta be able to sacrifice. Like in my younger years, man, there were tons and tons and tons of parties and events and girlfriends and things. It just it all kinds of stuff that I sacrificed out of because I was playing music and I was very serious about it. And I'm not saying that you can find your own medium in it, but all of that is what led me to be able to still do it now. And later years of life, I mean, I've been doing it for 30 years, and it's I've been good to it, I guess, with putting in the work, so it's been good to me. And I guess that's kind of what I'm saying, especially if you're a young musician or artist. I keep saying musician, especially if you're a young artist. And sometimes I say young as in your artistic life, but in this case, I'm speaking of to the actual younger people out there, the teenagers, the 20 somethings, even the single digit people, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. If you've found a passion in some form of art, and believe me, you will know if you're in love with it. You will know, trust me. There will be no two ways about it. I was very lucky to find my love by the time I had my first drum kit when I was 10, and I was loving them by the time when I was, as long as I have a conscious memory, I loved them. And from what I was told, even before that, so I got lucky to have found that. And I did my air guitaring and all kinds of stuff. I did my I never wanted to sing. But nonetheless, the drums were my passion and love, and I found them, and I've held on, and they've been good to me. And I say this because as a young person, you're going to have a lot of choices to do things with friends, hang out and stuff. And I'm not saying to never hang out, but what I am saying is you've got to sacrifice. You've got to decide what the cost is and what you want out of your instrument. If you truly are, or back to the music, whatever your artistic passion is, if you found that passion, you have to be true to it, and that means sacrifice. What I'm saying is for the younger people out there, there's a lot of partying that you could be giving up to hone your craft with your art. And if you take that time to hone your craft with your art, it will repay you in exponentially. It truly will. And you'll have something for your whole life. Trust me on that. So that's basically what I'm getting at. That was the point of the show: sacrifice and seizing the moment. So when you have those moments, you take them, no matter what. No matter what. If you have the moment and you know you're not hurting anybody. There's no marriage jeopardy or school jeopardy. You know, don't start. And believe me, I did. There were. I loved the music from the time I joined my first band at 14, and man, I remember waking up, and our guitarist Dave would be waking up over in his bedroom. I'd have my sticks and my practice pad, and we'd be like, it's 4 a.m. or something. We'd be like, shit, man, you got to get home because at school your dad's going to kill you. Just crazy stuff. But again, those are the type things that you can pull off when you're in your teens, not when you're in your 20s and 30s, and definitely not when you're in your 40s. So, you know, when you're young and stupid, try to trade some of that fun to put in some work with your art, and it will pay you back later. It's money in the bank for up here. It's money because getting your head right is the most important thing of anything. Is your perspective on things is everything. So when you're young and you don't have, you know, the adult responsibilities, and it's, you know, more like finish your homework and, you know, what are you doing with your friends around the weekend and stuff like that. Be sure to stack up some of that time with your art, because it will help your mind. That's one of the big things, is if you have a true artistic passion, it's connected with you, and you need to. I know I do. I need to do it. It's part of my breathing. It's part of life, and it's my psychologist. It's my, you know, it's pretty much, it's where I come face to face with myself and reflect. Well, it's a place that I'm very thankful that I've been granted access to, and it was a long road, and it takes a lot of work, but it when you get here, it's a beautiful thing. And what I want is for everybody to get, you know, to get there. So it's easy to. I know so many people. You know, I was talking with a friend of mine, another drummer, the other day, and we grew up in the same neighborhood, went to high school together. I met him in high school, and he was in another band, and we were really good friends. And we kind of lost contact for a while, but then we got back in contact. And when we got back in contact with each other, you know, a few years back, the two things that we both said to each other that was like really cool was, wow, so glad you're still playing music, you know, because you run into a lot of people who are playing music or something, and then next thing you know, they're just not doing it anymore. And you know, I understand there's circumstances, there's, you know, to each their own, but for those of us who started playing as children and who have stuck with it and have, you know, continued to make sacrifices. I mean, you know, as a sacrifice, you can just not watch that basketball or football, or I stopped watching sports and all that stuff a long time ago because it was messing with my music, you know. Because why the hell am I going to sit down and, you know, Anyway, like I said, it's all to each our own, but you have to decide how important your art is to you. And, you know, like I said, you get out, and I'm not saying never to watch football. I'm not saying never to play a video. I'm not saying never to do any of that stuff. What I'm saying is, you know, you need to balance it, and it needs to be on the bottom end, or the top end of the scales. Like your heavy end of the scale should be your art, not your bullshit. You know, so, and we all have it, and we all try to balance it, and you know, but I'm just saying, as a guy who has sat here and done it for his whole life, it's an amazing, amazing thing. And not in the sense of, just in the sense of yourself and knowing yourself and what you are. And like I said, it's just, you can get there by seizing every moment and sacrificing, which was the whole key to this video. It's any opportunity that you have, take it to hone your art. Not, you know, obviously you're going to want breaks, but hone your art. And it's going to require sacrifice. It's going to require not going out some Friday nights with the friends, not going to the bar. It's going to require, I mean, you know, you can't go out and go to the clubs, drink, whatever you're doing to spend money on. You can't do that shit and keep buying guitar strings or drum heads or you know what I mean? Unless you're rich. And I don't know. I'm on a redneck budget here, dude. So I'm looking for another penny so I can rub two together, you know? So I'm just saying, you know, it's okay. So I went off there a little, went off topic. Sacrifice, okay, is where we're at. It's just what I'm saying. It's just, you know, we all know, you know, and hey, if you are in your 20s and you're single and you're living in an apartment or whatever, and you got a $160 cable bill and a $19 cell phone bill and everything else, and you're talking about you can't afford some studio time or some, you know, like, I'm just saying, you have to prioritize your art, and it has to be a priority. If it is, it will stick with you forever. And more importantly, though, is it's now a tool for my children, because I can actually tell them that I've stuck with something for 3 decades plus, and they can see the fruits of what it's done. So my daughter loves to draw, and I'm trying to kind of, I don't want to turn it into some, you know, freaking crazy ass drawing, you know, like you know, some kind of a nut house thing. I don't want to turn her away from it, but I try to encourage her to practice as much as I can, and I try to, you know, explain to her that if she puts in now, you know, like it's anything in life. I mean, we live in a world that tells you to cut corners and to do this and to do that, but the bottom line is if you want the real deal, you get what you put in. You got to put your own work in, you know, and so that's just that, you know, seize every moment that you can, seize all of them, and sacrifice when you need to. And your art will stay with you to help keep your mind sane for your whole life. So everybody, at this point, you know, cheers. A bit of a long-winded here video talking about it, but it's something that I do feel is extremely important for any artist to do, especially the young ones, so you get on a good path, you know, early. And other than that, have a great day. Keep it metal.